Hello, hello, hello my creep, hello new peeps, and today we are going to go through the mono red cards of my cube. Get that mono red flow going on, if you know what I mean. But first, I gotta let you know, I did not go with the red deck wins strategy, where you get the little creatures, or that style where if someone drafts mono red, they're gonna have the fastest deck. No, that's not gonna happen in my cube. I designed mono red to be mid-range. You'll see that in the dragon section, you'll see that in the creature section, you'll see it in the draw section. There is no super aggro deck. No, I do not like the idea of someone drafting my cube and thinking, well, if I go mono red, I will play the best deck. I hate that in other cubes, and I didn't want it in my cube. So, with that in mind, we start this video right now. And we're starting off with the haste portion of the mono red of the cube. This is simply cards that give other creatures haste, or ways to give creatures haste. We start with Boots of Speed to give some teeth to the aggro strategies that there are in the cube. And then we have Viashino Lashclaw for the discard effect for reanimator decks, but also the ability to give a big creature haste at the tap of a whim. We have both Fervor and Hammer of Perforos as two enchantments that give haste to all our creatures, and that sack ability on Hammer of Perforos can be good as an in-game mechanic or strategy. Then at the top of this list, we have Perforos, Bronze Blooded. As a souped up haste engine, he has the sneaky sneak attack ability to cheat creatures into play, and that in itself can be nasty. And that brings us to the Rummage, Tutor, and Draw section of mono red.
I'm on the verge of understanding something extraordinary.
As we find ourselves in the Rummage, Tutor, Draw section of mono red, you will see a handful of cards that benefit the discard strategies, as well as make hand fixing a bit easier. So, we start with the oddly specific tutor that works great in the cube, Sarkhan's Triumph. That tutors for a dragon, which is actually decent for red, and we have a grip of dragons, as you'll see future in the cube. Then we have Valakut Exploration for the landfall decks, but this card is decent overall, pushing in bits of damage for any unused cards. Then we have Imperial Recruiter to help tutor out the little guys. This card performs really great in the cube, and it does a great deal in finding some amazing creatures with low powered mana values. We also include Fast and Furious as a decent rummage card and has a damage side that goes for the non-flying creatures. Then we have the classic Faithless Looting with that flashback ability that's just solid. We also include Thrill of Possibility, that is just a solid instant to have for drawing cards. We have Abbot of Curl Keep, a simple prowess creature that has that weird exile draw effect where you exile a card and you can play it until end of turn. And oh boy, we have Dismissive Pyromancer. This card is an interesting rummage creature with a built-in combat trick built in to do 4 damage to a creature. We also have the saucy Magmatic Channeler. This card is stronger than it looks, and at the same time is very risky, but she sure changes the game either way. And at the tippity top of this list, we have Burgy God of Storytelling, who ramps you with each spell you cast, but we usually want to play this card for the flip side. Harnfell Horn of Bounty. This card is really great. Discard a card to do that weird exile play card thing. This card is really amazing, and it works for what it wants to do and fits in the reanimation deck. So this card is top notch. And that leads us to the Planeswalkers of mono red.
I'm sure you did your best.
Now, as we enter the Planeswalker section, you will see some interesting Planeswalkers. 3 main characters, basically. They fit 3 different strategies, but they all are a powerhouse. Starting with Chandra, Fire Artisan. This firecracker offers the exile draw-like effect in 2 ways, and a burnout ultimate that shines and gets you there. Then we have Chandra, Torch of Defiance. This loaded planeswalker, a loaded baked potato, offers several different abilities that make her flexible for any red deck. And here we have Chandra Flamecaller. This planeswalker is just an all-star, amazing and limited, giving you tokens, a will effect, and a burnout ultimate effect. This card is just fully amazing. We have the Dragon Master himself, Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, who is just flexible as a planeswalker turned creature, and his plethora of abilities that make him great. We also have Sarkhan the Masterless, who loves to pretend he's a dragon. He gives other planeswalkers some aggro teeth while he creates 4/4 dragon tokens on the board. And on the top of this list, we have Luca, Coppercoat Outcast, who loves being in the zoo style decks. He loves creature strategies and synergy. He is amazing and really should not be overlooked. As a great planeswalker he secretly is, and his ultimate ability can be a blowout in the game as a game-winning activation. And yes, I love this planeswalker. And with that, we find ourselves at the red burn spells and that one removal and board wipe section.
The boo box. The boo box. Yeah.
As we find ourselves at the burn list, you will notice how small this section is compared to the rest of the red cards in the cube, and compared to the whole cube, it's a very small selection. But the cards on this list are to serve their own purpose or to be part of the discard theme for Rakdos strategies, but they also fit in any deck that needs them. This is built and designed this way so it can stay in the mid-range speed of things that I want to be, so red deck wins is not a thing. So no major early game shenanigans become overwhelming. And we start with the classic Lightning Bolt, which is a solid 1-drop dealing 3 damage at instant speed. On to Searing Spear for a quick 3 damage at instant speed. And we have Avacyn's Judgment as another Searing Spear-like card, but with a madness effect that makes a fireball spell. Then we have Fiery Temper to play around with. And the last burn spell we have on this list is Fiery Confluence. This spell is a blowout burn spell for that 1v1 game or that round robin tournament. This card is fine. It's on fire.
This card is on fire!
This card is amazing. And for our one removal spell, we have Chaos Warp. This card makes combat tricks fun, and this card really sets the pace in the game. Even though it replaces the creature it removes, it helps with the combat really well. And the last spell on this list, we have the possible board wipe, Blasphemous Act. Most likely it's going to be a board wipe. This card is so aggressive and is really strong, and if it counts the creatures on the board to cost less, this card is amazing. And with that, we find ourselves onto the Lair of the Dragons.
I want to see everything.
In Mono Red, I wanted there to be a good presence of dragons in the cube, enough to see one at least in every draft. And yes, there are dragons in the multicolored section as well, but here there's a good grip, and these are to keep up with the mid-range strategy, and they fit in almost every deck you can build from the cube. Because I didn't want red to have that aggro-ness for the early game, I built red to fit in decks as if you would in a draft when you couldn't draft mono red. Each dragon on this list does its own thing, but they are all doing it in a mono red fashion. And we start with Thunderbreak Regent. This card is just solid as a 4-drop. Oh snaps, we have the classic Thundermaw Hellkite. This is a hasty 5/5 dragon. Then we have Stormbreath Dragon, who is just a badass with that monstrous ability. We include Backdraft Hellkite to fit in the Spells Matters deck. This is one of those hidden gems found in those commander decks I keep mentioning. The next dragon is just amazing. We have Inferno of the Star Mounts. He fits in 2 main strategies, the Voltron strategy and the big beefy Zoo strategy. This next dragon has a cute combo with Bear Umbra. We have Hellkite Charger with that ability to take extra combats. It's so sick. Then we have the old school Flame Blast Dragon, who has that built-in ability to potentially remove a creature or burn an opponent out when attacking. This card is still nuts and limited. And the last dragon on this list, we have
Balefire Dragon.
He's just a nasty reanimator target, and this creature is almost a board wipe on a stick. This dragon is insane. And with all that said, we find ourselves on the non-dragon big creatures of mono red.
Violence, aggression, and insanity.
In this section, there are only 4 creatures. 4 big, beefy, non-dragon creatures. These 4 creatures usually will turn a game around or just be a kill on sight kind of creature. I designed red to fit more in the green and black synergies, but also like Jund, Mardu, 3 color synergies as well. 3 color combinations, I mean. While they work in almost every color combination there are in the cube, making red just a malleable color is what I focused on making red. And we start the list with the fearsome Itali Primal Storm, who is just a beater, and with the haste engines and gruel strategies like Fervor and Rhythm of the Wild, all the big red creatures just become terrifying targets. We also include Ilharg, the Razeboar, for his game-altering effect to possibly beef up the combat step by throwing creatures onto the board. He is no joke. Then we have Yadara, Wandering Monster. This big beefy monstrosity fits well in the black reanimator strategies, as well as a big gruel green zoo style creature. And that alt win condition cycling ability he has just makes a fun minigame in the draft. And on top of this list, we have the classic, the crazy Inferno Titan, who just is a red Hulk of a creature. He's just amazing. He's huge. He does turn the game around. He burns creatures or players out. He makes combat math more difficult. And in this, we find ourselves in the signpost cards of mono red.
You guys being all nerdy and shit and meaning me? I mean, that is fate.
As we go into the signpost cards, you are going to see a radical switch. First, you see in the big beefy creatures, the signpost cards offer more of a spells matter theme for the multicolored section of Izzet and Jeskai strategies. And this isn't done on purpose, because the archetypes in those strategies of Jeskai and Izzet are to hone in on the multicolored themes in thereof, where most of what you see in red already for more of the big green black synergies and strategies there are. So, we start this list with the Dragon's Rage Channeler, who is just an obvious nod to cast non-creature spells. We also have the Young Pyromancer, who wants to be in that Izzet or Jeskai deck with its instant and sorcery's claws. We include Guttersnipe for a signpost card because he just does damage on the cast of non-creature spells of instants and sorceries. We have Dualcaster Mage as a signpost card that tells the player that they want to run more instants and sorceries, and this is just a good spell for that. Including Chandra's Phoenix on the list, who's just an aggro creature for the Spells Matters deck and feeds off the need to run a grip of instant sorcery removal spells. This card is pretty good. We also include Past in Flames. This card is really good to give a second life to your cheap instant and sorcery spells, or maybe that removal spell you need. This card is crazy good. Then we run Wildfire Devils, who just love playing instants and sorcery cards from your opponent's graveyards, which suggests that you want to run cards like Young Pyromancer and Guttersnipe for those triggers. We have Goblin Dark Dwellers to let us gain value back from the graveyard. This card should not be overlooked. And at the top of this list, we have Charmbreaker's Devils, who give us a lot of incentive to run non-creature spells matters themes. This card is simply crazy. And now, we have reached the X burn spells of mono red.
Everything burns.
In the X burn spells, you'll find that these cards are exactly what this section is titled. They are burn spells that do X damage, and that is that. No hidden strategy or nothing. We start this list with Starstorm, which is a possible board wipe with that cycling ability stapled on it. Then we have Banefire, that pushing that damage really hard, especially if X is 5 or more, this spell can't be countered. We also have the classic Devil's Play, which is flexible and adds value with that flashback cost. Then we have Comet Storm for that flexible burn spell that grows with the game. And on the top of this list, we have Bonfire of the Damned, which is a favorite of mine. You're unlikely to pull off the miracle cost most of the time, but the advantage is burning your opponent's board and the opponent themselves at the same time. This is a sweet card overall. And with that, we have reached the final portion of mono red cards in the cube, the support cards.
I'm cool, dude.
Here in the red support cards, you will discover that these cards don't fit any particular strategy, but they are just solid overall by themselves. Starting with Relentless Assault, which just messes with combat hard and gives you a bonus combat step in the process. Then we have Zealous Conscripts to steal any permanent on the board, from a planeswalker to a big bad creature or even a land if that's what you need, until in a turn. Also, Ward of Seizing is an unstoppable permanent stealer, as well with that split second ability. This card is annoyingly good. Then on a different note, we have Felden of the Third Path, whom loves helping you create tokens to keep up the board state in the later games. We include Dockside Extortionist for a type of red ramp. He is just a simple creature who helps with mana fixing. Also one of those commander deck powerhouses that I keep mentioning from those commander decks. For a fun side of Reanimator and Graveyard strategies, or simply the Aristocrat style of decks, we have
Squee, Goblin Nabob.
For the Go Wide strategy, we have the Hellrider to push hard on the combat strategies and synergies that we want.
We also have Throws of Chaos to help out with thinning out your deck with that retrace ability.
And at the top of this list, we showcase an undervalued card in my cube. We have Flame Shadow Conjuring to push the aggro big creature strategy, and as red masses as a very integral part of the cube, being a pivot color, red is to coax the drafter who wants to play red in my cube to assess the function as a multicolored environment, rather than that mono red deck win strategy, and it works amazingly in my cube. The way this works, it makes draft flow operate functionally and easy like a well-oiled machine. And in this, I want to thank you for watching and thank you for being a part of the journey of mine as we continue. If you have not, hit that like button if you gained some value in today's video. Smash that subscribe button if you don't want to miss an upload of mine, and toggle that bell while you're at it. Next time we are going through the mono green cards of my multicolored cube. And until next time, my friends, draft a really fun red deck.